I'm on a mission to help high flyers just like yourself, who until now have let the fear of public speaking hold them back from making a bigger impact. Join me as I find out the secret sauce from the world's leading speakers to make your speeches more interesting, enjoyable to give, and impactful for your audience. That's the mission, and this podcast will get you there. My name's Victor Ahipeni, and this is the Public Speaking Secrets Podcast.
Speaker Nation, what's happening? Welcome to another episode of Public Speaking Secrets. I'm your host, Victor Ahipeni, and today we have Nick Bowditch, who's a TEDx speaker and author, and he is the only person in Asia Pacific to have worked both at Facebook and Twitter, and he's a thought leader, which is what we're going to jump into, not necessarily the thought leader side of things, but on how he has become that using storytelling as a tool. Welcome to the show, Nick.
Thank you, mate. It's great to be here.
Look, how first off, I know there's a lot of people just their heads are spinning at the words Facebook and Twitter in the same sentence. How did you become kind of that? How did you manage to get into both of those organizations, and then how have you been able to spin out of that into kind of the author speaker role? Yeah,
so it's been a great positioning thing for me to be totally sort of blunt and honest about it. But coming into it, I came from a tech sort of startup background. I had a few of my own small businesses and startups coming in, and then the last one was an agency in which I helped other small businesses get going and build and grow using Facebook largely. And this was at a time where no one else was really kind of using it in that way. And we were just sort of doing things a little bit differently. And we sort of came to the attention of Facebook, and they were looking to build out a small business team in this part of the world. And they never had a team here. They only had a very small sales team here at the time based in Sydney and Singapore. And anyway, so I was doing a bit of public speaking at the time, speaking at events and stuff. And a fella came out to speak at the same event that I was speaking on and introduced himself. And we got talking from there. And then he was aware of the work that I'd done and you know, brands that I'd helped and all that sort of stuff. And then it came to pass that he's like, you know, we really want to build out this team in small business in Asia, in Australia and New Zealand, and we'd love you to be sort of the man. What they wanted was somebody who was already recognised as somebody who knew stuff about Facebook and small business. They didn't want to sort of parachute someone in and then tell the Australian market that they were the Australian Facebook guy. They kind of wanted to reverse engineer it. So that's how they came to ask me, and it was just a great opportunity. I stayed there for about 3.5 years, and it was great. I loved every day of it, every second of it. I learned something new, and it was really good. And then when I left, I kind of did nothing for a little while. I just relaxed, and I've got small kids, as you know, and they were very small then, and so I spent a lot of time with them, and then I rebounded out of that into working at Twitter, doing the same sort of thing. So they approached me through LinkedIn, ironically enough, and asked me. And they said the same thing. You know, we're building out a small business team. You know, we're a couple of years behind Facebook in kind of the market, and the market sort of how the market perceives us and stuff like that. And so, you know, we really want someone to come in and just kind of copy and paste what I did at Facebook to build up that team, and I'm like, yeah, we can do that. You know, I was a big fan of Twitter at the time, and when I was at Facebook, I was one of very few Facebook employees who used Twitter or knew anything about it. So it was kind of a nice little synergy. And then, yeah, so that's how it came to be. And then that positioning statement that you mentioned at the start, Victor, about, you know, the only guy in Asia Pacific or the Southern Hemisphere or whatever, however you want to say it, that's worked at both brands, and the only person in the world to work in both brands in marketing. That fairy dust will eventually wear off, and somebody else is going to be that, you know.
Yeah.
But it's been a great marketing and personal branding positioning statement and tool for me in the last few years since I left Twitter to position myself as a speaker and an expert in that sort of stuff and how storytelling can help brands, big and small, achieve and grow on both of those platforms.
Yeah. Before we jump into the storytelling side of things, when it comes to, I mean, it sounds like you were doing speaking gigs prior to speaking gigs after. How did you? I mean, there's a lot of aspiring speakers out there listening, and I think you kind of gave a good gem there on how people can utilize what they're already doing to position themselves extremely well, with the right wording. And it's not a lie; it's just how you can, put yourself as that unique person. But when it comes to actually putting yourself out there for speaking gigs, and then I guess pricing yourself, because I've followed you for a while, and I know that you're very transparent with a lot of that, with the pricing and that side of things. What kind of words of wisdom would you throw out to the speakers just starting out or looking to get their foot in there?
Yeah, look, I know that we both get this same question from people who are starting out. Do I do free stuff? If I don't do free stuff, I don't get the work. If I don't get the work, I don't get the experience. If I don't get the experience, I can't get the work. That kind of merry-go-round is pretty real. I'll just tell you how I did it. I'm an expert in how I did it. I'm not really an expert in how anybody else should do it. But how I did it was I used to do stuff for free at first until I sort of got a bit of stagecraft and a bit of a name and stuff like that. And then I very quickly escalated up through charging to what I charge now, only because I felt like I had done that kind of apprenticeship of, the free Tuesday night gig at the Rotary Club sort of thing, which is it's fine work. It's still an engaged audience and all that. It doesn't have to be a 10,000 seat stadium. It's still really great work, and but I'd done all that. And I felt like I wanted to charge. I knew what I wanted to charge. And you mentioned my transparency around charging, and I'm one of very, very few speakers who has their price on their website, because I don't know why. I think we're a bit either there's a tall poppy thing, or we don't really want to say, and we want to be able to negotiate. I just feel like I don't want to negotiate. I feel like I've done the work. And my price is the price for a reason. And in having that transparently there in black and white, it actually saves a lot of really awkward, weird conversations with people about, how much, what's your budget? And, could you do it for this? And could you do it for that? I just don't. I do it for what it is. And if you can't afford that, that's okay. For both of us, we're going to miss out on each other. And that's a shame, but that's what my price is. And I feel like, if you have to buy a jar of Vegemite at Coles, it's $2.69.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. You can't haggle about it. It's just what it is. And it's that price for a reason. So, yeah.
And you got to bring your own plastic bag.
Absolutely.
With all of that, what does speaking make up of your week, month, and year nowadays? Like, obviously, being a somewhat professional speaker or doing a lot of paid speaking gigs, it's, I guess, an art of balancing, doing other business activities and writing and speaking and mentoring and things like that. How have you about that?
Mate, I would love to tell you that I've got a very shiny spreadsheet that's all works out very well, but that would be a lie. I try to limit my speaking engagements to 4 a month, primarily because of the travel involved with them, even if it's just to Brisbane or just to Moomin. I'm based around Sydney, so there's still travel away from my family, away from my home, away from my own bed and all of that stuff, and that has to be sort of taken into account. So in terms of, say, revenue, it's the biggest part of my total revenue comes from speaking. But I find that I sell a lot of books through speaking gigs, and I get a lot of speaking bookings through my books.
Yeah.
So it's they're kind of a business card for each other in some ways. And I do a little bit of consulting here and there, but not much. So it's really my job, I guess, if you want to say it like that, is my job as a speaker, and I write books. And it's a real balance to not just say yes to everything, but I find the pricing helps on that. But I still say no to certain things. There's some brands and some industries that I just won't work with for my own reasons, and that doesn't stop them asking me, but it just stops me saying yes. And so I've learned to say no to things that I don't feel comfortable doing, and that kind of thins it out a bit too.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome position to be in, but everyone's in that position regardless. Like, whether you're needing the money or wanting the money or whatever, you can still say no to these different industries, which is
and it's hard, right? I am in a position now where I can say no and not think, oh shit, I can't. How am I going to pay the mortgage if I say no, or whatever it is. But I wasn't always, and I still made the decision to not work with some brands and some organizations or do some types of gigs because it detracted from my brand. Like, not because of some pious ideology or anything like that. Just, I just didn't want to do that work. And I knew that sometimes I really needed the money. But I still said no, and it is really hard to say no. But the more you say no, the more things come to you which are easier to say yes to. I guarantee that. So
that's a piece of gold there. With your books that you've written, and I'm happy for you to give them a plug and a bit of background about what they are about. But when it comes to tying that into your speaking side of things, you said it's obviously like a business card, and it kind of one rolls out to the next. Was there a time when you were obviously speaking before you had a book? Did you notice more opportunities coming about, directly because of that book? Look, I won't flog my books other than to say if you go on Amazon and search my name, you'll see my books. Or if you go to my website and click on books, you'll see them there too. I was a speaker first. And the stuff that I mostly spoke about, which was, online marketing or social branding and things like that, tech, startup, that kind of thing, which was my background and whatever. They didn't really lend themselves very well to the books that I wrote anyway, because the books that I've written, the two books, the one which is a bestseller and the one which is just recently out, are more about my own sort of personal development stuff. So they haven't necessarily married that well in that way. But I would say that the more books I've sold, or the more books that have been in people's hands, the more people who've come to my speaking gigs and brought them, say, for me to sign them, or just have thought, oh, I've read that dude's book. I see he's speaking at this thing. I'll go. Like, I know that happens a lot because people say that to me. Yeah. And so, look, it's the books definitely, writing definitely exposes me as a speaker to different people who wouldn't necessarily be exposed to me otherwise. Likewise, so does speaking to people, who they might have read something or read something by a similar author to me, and then they somehow find me through Google or through Amazon. You might like this too, which is a great tool. And then they end up at my speaking gig. So it's just a really nice little complimentary adjunct, really. And I feel like speakers who don't have, this is a bit controversial maybe, but I feel like speakers who don't have something to adjunct their speaking career with are just missing an opportunity. That's all. I don't mean they all have to be speakers, or they all have to have like the 7-day program that they sell, or whatever it might be, the subscription website. But the ones that do, I think, for the people who are interested in it, it's a really nice little bonus. And I just think it works well. It's nice to give people another option to like something else of yours if they've liked you as a speaker. Yeah, I think every event I've been to, if I've liked the speaker, particularly if it's a cheaper event or something like that. Like, it's a nice way to give back to the speaker. You're like, oh, I enjoyed that person. I'll get their book, and I'll add it to the 58 other books that I have to read. But you eventually get to it, and then it reminds you, like you say, I'm very, very passionate about making speaking not boring and getting more people out there to be able to share their message, because I would have never come across you had not been a speaker at a couple of events. And I mean, since then I've kind of followed your journey and seen different things as they've unfolded. But I want to dive into a little bit of you as a speaker. A lot, we've talked about, you're speaking up there and Facebook coming up to you and saying, hey, let's have a chat, let's have a meeting. But at that stage, were you still wearing the same things as you wear today? Has that always been your attire?
Yeah, it's always been my shtick, really. So you're alluding, I think, to the fact that I don't dress in a suit and tie when I speak on stage. I dress as me, and I feel like that's always been a real brand decision for me. Not in a kind of vacuous or cynical way. I just feel like if I wear a suit and tie, I hate it for a start. I hate every second of it. And I just feel like that's a lie. I feel like that's not a true, authentic, engaging representation of me. If you meet me, and you and I met at an event where I was on stage and whatever. So that first time you saw me work, if I was in a suit and tie then, and now you know me as not that guy, one of those things is a lie. Either I'm lying to you now or I was lying to you then. And I don't like that. I would rather just give you and everybody else an authentic representation of me, and you can take me or leave me.
It's probably why I think you're a great speaker, but I think that's why I resonated. Is I hate wearing long pants. I wear shorts every day. That's why I'm in Queensland. I wear shorts every day. I hate wearing shoes. You're out there, and I'll drop the Aussie slang in thongs and I can't remember, shorts or jeans and a t-shirt, or it was all
it would have been jeans and a t-shirt, I would say, so
and that's pretty I resonate with that, in the sense I'll go to a networking event. If people don't want to talk to me because I'm not wearing a suit and tie, then I probably don't want to talk to them either, which is
exactly. And then it's just the same as if you are a suit and tie guy. So I work with a lot of startups as an investor and advisor in little startups all over the world now, actually, but mostly in Australia and New Zealand. And sometimes we grab some corporate dude or corporate lady and put them in the CEO role of the startup, and then make them go to some conference and wear a t-shirt, and they hate it. Like, it's not them any more than me in a suit is me. And so I think it's really important that it's 2018. If you can't in 2018 be who you are, dress the way you want, and not be seen as somehow less professional or less clever, then something is seriously wrong. I mean, and likewise, if you think that people are only smart and worthwhile and effective and investable if they're wearing a suit and tie, then there is something a bit off with you as well.
Amen to that. When it comes to, and this is where I really love to delve into it, storytelling. I listen to a lot of talks. I follow a lot of people, and I'd put you up there as one of the better storytellers when it comes to delivering an effective message with a speech. And obviously, you do it and help businesses do it as well. But are there any transferable skills that you see from what you do? It's not. Is it just a nickism that you have that, hey, I'm just phenomenal at doing this, or is it something that you feel storytelling that you can everybody can kind of cookie cutter to a degree and take certain learnings from it?
Let me rewind one step, right? When I spoke a lot about small business and startup and social media and all of that stuff, it started to become evident to me that there was a lot of people starting to do that, and now, of course, there are a dime a dozen. So I wanted to kind of differentiate myself away from that. And I knew that the Facebook and Twitter fairy dust would eventually wear out, So I thought about things and changing my branding a little bit into what I could still speak about, but be effective and be useful in that small business space, or at least, a business and conference space. And storytelling was something that I was always really good at. And I always thought that small businesses in particular were pretty terrible at. And we still are. We're still not very well capable of standing up and saying, this is what we do. We're really good at it. That's why we charge this much. That's, whatever it might be. And so I think that's initially how I became Australia's storytelling expert, which is a tagline, of course, like any other. And you can't deny, nobody can say, well, you're not Australian storytelling expert. Somebody else is. Well, I just made it up, so you can't tell me I'm not.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you a story about that one.
Yeah. But to answer, so that's the first thing. To answer your question, I think we all have stories in us. I think we all are natural storytellers. We're descended from natural storytellers, regardless of what your heritage is. A story has kept us alive for, tens of thousands of years in civilizations all over the world. It still is how we interact with people 200 times every day. We're in a story every single time you go and put petrol in your car, you walk into the cashier, that's a story right there, with the way that he or she perceives you, the conversation that you have, the interaction, everything about it. That's a story. And that happens over and over and over again. And if you're surrounded by small children like I am, then you are stuck in story all day and all night. Most of the stories are kind of a bit rubbish, but they're still going on. So I feel like I just want us to be like, I'd love that you said before that you just want people to be able to share more people to be able to share their message. And I'm of exactly the same mind. I feel like people say, oh, look, I don't have anything to say, or I don't have, I didn't work at Facebook and Twitter. I don't have this experience or whatever. But everybody has a human experience, and human experience is full of stories, like full of stories. And everybody can tell something that is engaging about something that's banal. And that's a human gift. That's what sets us apart, really, in the animal kingdom, is our ability to transfer information from one another that might seem boring, but make it worthwhile and engaging and useful. And that's the ticket, And I just feel like we do a very poor job of that. And so at the time, and it still is, a nice little niche for me to operate in, because people do have a thirst for it. People want to be better at it. But also people recognize that they're not great at it, and they want to sort of upskill in that area. And that's largely what I do, and what I talk about now is and particularly then my slant is particularly on telling your own story, having the audience be part of your own endeavor, your own enterprise, your own storytelling of your own life, which we are a bit reticent to do sometimes. And that's a shame, I think.
Yeah. And I think like what I try and do with a lot of people is get them to reframe. A lot of people are scared of the word expert, like being an expert in anything. And I'm like, man, I love the 80-20 rule. So it's like, if you 80-20, can you teach 8 out of 10 people walking down the street something that they don't know? Like, therefore you're an expert to them. You're a subject matter expert. Yeah, there's probably, if you're a doctor, you can tell a lot of people about their health, and there's some expert doctors who are going to know more than you, but that doesn't mean that you're any less than an expert. And then, with the storytelling side of things, if people then come in and tell stories that they already know about themselves, that they're passionate about, then all of a sudden, what are you afraid of when you're public speaking? You're an expert. People want to listen to what you've got. Now keep them engaged and don't read it off slides for 20 minutes and then walk off stage.
Yeah, absolutely don't read it off slides. But I think there's 2 points I want to just reaffirm what you've said there. The first thing is that I don't I don't say that so I speak a lot about mental health now and personal development and stuff like that, about my own mental health, right? Because I'm not a mental health expert, but I am absolutely an expert in my own mental health.
Yeah.
Like, I talk about my own experience, I talk about my own journey, my own struggle, my own stuff-ups, and my own wins as well. And in doing that, the second thing that comes out of that is nobody can say, that's not right. Or nobody can challenge my content because it's my experience, like, I'm not saying that everybody has to do X, Y, and Z. What I'm saying is this is what I did and this was the effect that it had in my life. And I just think that is such a free hit for people that we don't take very often, is just tell the story of what is true for you. Don't try and say, and I think the one really simple rule which has helped me in this way is I try never to say on stage, I try never to say should or must. Because I feel like as soon as I do that, I'm in that teaching, professor, expert, lecturing mode, which doesn't really sit well with me or my audience for that matter.
Yeah.
So instead of that, I say things like, if I was you, or this is what I did, and then if you speak in the I, it just takes all of that pressure off. That you're not saying you should do this or you must do that. You're just saying, do you know what? This is what I did. And this is what happened. And I just think it's a really good thing to remember.
I love that because people don't want to be told anything. Like, you have a significant other, you have your kids have you, whatever. And you say to people, you need to do blah, 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 versus giving them a reason to understand it. And I think that's where storytelling is brilliant, because it's like, this is what happened, this is what I did, this was the result. And people can logically come to the conclusion themselves rather than being like, oh, this is what I did, this is what you have to do, and then you might get this result at the end. And no one likes being told what to do. So if they can, they think that they're geniuses for coming up with it themselves, then all the better. You've done your job very, very well.
That's right. You've got to have, that's a great idea that you've just come up with that I just that sort of thing is really is the key with an audience. And I feel like, I can't keep reaffirming you, but like to reaffirm what you just said then, like if you say to a 6-year-old, don't touch that pen, it's hot. Or if you say to a 6-year-old, see when I touch that pen with my wrist here, see that mark there that's still there today? That's because that pen was hot. And the kid's like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to do that. Rather than, it's like if you say, if you're anything like me, if you see a sign that says wet paint, I can't help myself, man. I just have to touch it, So, I just feel like we don't want to be told. We want to be led.
Yeah.
We definitely want leadership. And we definitely want somebody who is going to accept us for who we are and not lecture us. That's why why mainstream media is failing, because all it does is talk at us and tell us, what to think instead of telling us how to think. And I think that's a big difference.
That's brilliant. I've got a couple of questions, last questions to round off. One is just of personal interest. I spoke at a TEDx event last year as well. How did you, being a competent speaker, how did you find the process of the TEDx, leading up to it?
I spoke at a TEDx event in India, and I know that other people have spoken at events in Australia that were very, very different. Lots of rehearsals, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Mine
was not like that, although there was a lot of, I felt like they kind of, this is going to sound really wanky, but as a professional speaker, I felt like they were kind of like telling me how to suck eggs a little bit. But that's because, they're protecting their brand and all that. I totally understand that. And they don't really know. I mean, I can be pretty unpredictable and pretty erratic. I'm not, as I said before, I'm not a suit and tie PowerPoint guy. So, they're taking a bit of a risk. But I just think it's an interesting thing. And I really like the disparate sort of talent that's involved in a day like that. And I just love learning from other people. So I thought that was pretty cool too.
Yeah, I love the day of it when it's just what I love about it is that everybody's got no ulterior motive. Like it's not this self-promotion, here's a pitch at the end of it. It's not, some event organizer trying to make a lot of money off the back end of it or anything like that. It's just everyone just out trying to share a message massively, which was cool. And I was just interested on the process, which I'll probably save my one for another episode. It was interesting. We'll put it that way. It was fine, but interesting.
Did you find the same thing though, that they were like treating you like you'd never done it before?
Yeah. Like I had to.
And I was like, well, hang on, why am I here? Like, sure, that's kind of what I was a bit like. Oh, this is what I do for a living because that's how you got me to come. So maybe you should just let me do what I do for a living.
Yeah, well, mine was after speaking at another event that the MC organised one, but it was like doing rehearsals, having to hand in a written out speech, which was like, whoa, I haven't done that since, and that was like, a few weeks before, and then try and memorize. Oh God, it was.
God, that would rule me out. I think, right there.
Well, it shook a couple of the other people as well, which that was interesting. Last couple of questions. Outside of your own books, what's the best book you've read in the last 12 months?
Oh, gee, question without notice. I read a lot online, so I don't read. No, this is not really what an author is supposed to say, but I don't read a lot of books. Although I did read probably in the last 12 months. There's a book by Kate Forsyth, who's an Aussie author, and it's called The Wild Girl. It's a book, unsurprisingly, about storytelling and storytellers. She tells the story of the girl who was basically involved with one of the Grimm brothers, who the German boys who wrote the fairy tales, Hansel and Gretel and so on, and how this girl was actually the one who wrote most of the storytellers stories. So it's a novel that's based in fact, and it's actually like there's a lot of crossover and stuff like that, and it was really clever. So it's called The Wild Girl by Kate Forsyth, who's a great Australian author.
Nice.
She's a non-fiction author who's written a little bit of fiction. This is one of those books. It's really great.
Cool. We'll link that at publicspeakingblueprint.com. Final question. Who is a person you would recommend other speakers to go out and have a look at? To either a great talk that they've given, or somebody who's consistently putting out good info, or a brilliant storyteller, or what?
Oh, gee. Okay, so someone I work with a lot is Andrew Griffiths.
Yep.
He's based in Queensland. He's in Cairns, but he's all over the place, all over Queensland always, and in the world. He's just come back from doing a speaking gig in Tehran, of all places. But he's just a really great, personable kind of speaker. Very, very likable, very on point, very, very well researched, really good stagecraft. Just a very, very, very good speaker. And the other one that I'd recommend is Gillian Hicks. Gillian Hicks. She's based in South Australia. She was somebody who was caught up in the terrorist bombings in London. 7/7, when the bus and the tube was bombed, and she lost both of her legs in that bombing. And she speaks a lot about resilience and forgiveness and inclusiveness, in particular, including inclusiveness of the people who have ultimately hurt her and her family. And just an amazing speaker. If you look her up on YouTube, you'll see some of the stuff she's done, but she's just so engaging and so honest and so real, and very, very moving stuff. She's not a speaker, like she wasn't a speaker, I should say.
Yeah.
But what she does now is speaks very, very wholeheartedly about heart-centered stuff, about forgiveness and resilience, and it's some of the best work I've ever seen anyone do on the stage. And she has amazing stagecraft, amazing presence. If you actually, Victor, if you link the talk that she did on Wired for Wonder, which was an event that I just spoke at as well, you'll see her stagecraft at that is something else. It's just very moving and very real. I can't even explain it. I really want you to see. So she's Gill and then Hicks is her surname.
There you go, everyone. That's going to be linked at publicspeakingblueprint.com. If that's not a compelling enough reason to jump over there, check out all the links that we've talked about. But no doubt, check out those talks, because the way that, there's plenty of ways to improve your speaking, but one of them is just to see those who are doing it well, doing it. And I want to thank you, Nick, for you're someone who's out there actually in the trenches. You haven't just changed your social media profile to say that you're a professional speaker, and I appreciate that. But if people want to check out a bit more about you and what you're up to, where can they go and what can they do?
Yeah, mate, they can just go to nickbowditch.com.au or find me across all the socials. I'm at Nick Bowditch.
Brilliant. Well, we will link all of that, and it's been an absolute pleasure, mate, and I look forward to catching up next time you're in Queensland.
You're very welcome. See you, buddy.
If you want to fast track your confidence and impact with public speaking, then be sure to jump over to publicspeakingblueprint.com, where there's an array of free resources to help you no matter where you are on your journey to becoming a more powerful speaker. And while you're at it, jump over to Facebook and join our free community called Speaker Nation, where there's a ton of other like-minded individuals just like yourself looking to level up. Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss next week's episode.